undivided attention, please.
Hey everyone, so my name is Miiellee and I'm a beauty and transformation wellness coach, particularly for women, busy working women. And today my talk is going to be love as weed or love as fruits. And the concept of this kind of came to me from listening to this AE song. I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's MD Love is a House. And I come from a Christian background, and for me, the clearest example of love is actually a garden. When you think about Genesis chapter 1, you think about how Adam was placed in the garden and then Eve was introduced there. And I feel like in order to have a thriving relationship, we should always look at the source model of what a relationship was based around, the very first model, and try and apply the principles that they had there. And obviously, not everything was great, not everything was perfect. But when you think about God's intended plan for a relationship and what it was meant to be like, you do think about Eden, what it represents, and it was peace. And if you feel like your current relationship isn't in that space where you're producing peace, then it's obvious that you can look back and see what principles you can apply there. So I think for a lot of people, when you're working, especially, and you're so busy like trying to build your career and thrive on your own, it's so easy to fall into the trap of seeing your relationship as maybe as a distraction, something that doesn't really produce much fruit, something that is really hard, and you want to shift your mindset towards actually looking at something that can actually benefit you and aid you in your working life. And so that's where the concept of either looking at love as the weed, the distraction on the sidewalk of your garden, or love as a place that produces fruit for you, where you're able to bring this energy into your work and into your other relationships, is what I hope to bring forward to you today. And so with my work in particular, I do, as I said, I tend to focus more on the woman, but I will show you towards the end of my talk how, the men in the relationship can be brought into this. So I specialize in teaching women how to utilize cycle syncing. So that would be syncing your life and your work and your practices and your social life around your cycle if you're fortunate, or if you're able to currently have one. And if not, you are also able to follow just like creating your own schedule. And what this looks like is following the 4 patterns and the 4 seasons of your cycle. So the first season will be the menstruation period, when you're bleeding. Naturally, you tend to be more withdrawn. And so how you can apply this to your life is that you just start to think, okay, well, in this period of time, I can get closer to God and I can get closer to myself. Look at this as a period of being your internal clock. How can I use this to grow closer to myself? And once I'm closer to myself, then it's easier for me to relay my needs to my partner, because I truly believe intimacy is only capable at the level that you are able to be intimate with yourself. And so once you're able to do that for yourself during the winter season, which is, the time for you to bleed, and you get closer to God, you might present any issues you might be having in your relationship. You might say, God help me out. As you're able to create those practices of stillness, you're able to hear from God better. So really utilize that window of time for yourself. And like I said, draw nearer to you and draw nearer to God. Then we have the second season, which is straight after the menstruation has ended. You've got the spring. And so that means your energy is starting to come up, hopefully. And obviously, every woman is unique and different, but there's just general patterns that we tend to follow. So in the spring season, you've just finished your period and now you're starting to come alive more. And again, you might either feel like this is the time when you're like socializing more, or you might feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just filled with so many ideas. Like, I just want to channel all my energy into my work. I don't want to feel like I have to choose between, work and my relationship. And so the beauty of this is, if you feel like you have more energy and you're buzzing with ideas for work, you can say, you know what, I'm going to make the conscious decision that I'm going to focus more of my time on work during my spring. And then the summer, which is the ovulation date, I know that I feel more confident and I care more about outings and connecting with people in my network. Then you can schedule your life kind of that way. Whereas if you feel like, actually, when I've just come off that period, I don't actually feel like social. I love socializing more, and I don't have much energy, or I don't have much ideas. My ideas tend to come later in the month. It's all about tracking how your cycle flows and how your energy flows throughout the month, and just getting in tune with when I'm most creative, when I'm most feeling analytical, because these are all things that actually generally change. It's even a science that says that, naturally that women tend to be more attractive during like the ovulation period, and they tend to glow more, they tend to want to socialize more. As I said, they're all general socialization. So you have that to look forward to, like getting to know yourself as your seasons go by. And then once the ovulation period ends, you then enter the luteal phase. And this is naturally the time where you can be a bit more critical. A lot of women can experience what is known as PMS, but I want you to not be scared, because this is actually a very powerful time that you can use to actually highlight some truths that are going on in your life. And so this means, or this could look like you analyzing, okay, what's working or what's not working in our relationship. And maybe if you notice that you tend to get more cranky during this time, if you know that, you're tracking your cycles, you're like, okay, you know what? Instead of like going to my partner straight away and just like divulging how I feel, I'm going to sit with it and journal. Like, I'm going to journal my feelings. And then if I know I tend to be in a better mood, during my spring season, then I'll bring up any issues I have. Then it's all about using your internal clock to navigate the periods and the seasons and the difficulties of life. And the ways that you can invite your partner into this, now I'm going to speak to the men as well. I want you also to like listen to your partner, pay attention to them. And number one, don't try and say, oh, you're just upset because you're on your period, because that's probably one of the most annoying things you could ever say to your partner. But pay very careful attention to them, especially during the fall, which would be straight after ovulation. Try and be there for them more, because women tend to be more vulnerable during this time. See if you can provide any like extra treats that they like. Just try and go the extra mile for them. And then during the winter, you could also naturally, like, instead of maybe trying to plan dates around this time, you could tend to withdraw as well, or maybe your partner wants that close time during that winter period. So it's all about watching your woman and learning your woman as well. The cycle syncing can be a beautiful experience for you both to just see how we can get closer, how we can understand each other more, how we can listen to each other more, and build that intimacy and build that trust. And over the time, you can build your own, little rituals that you guys do. Every period, I make sure I get this for her, I get that for her, or I know that if I'm having any issues with her as well, because your opinions and your feelings are also valid in this relationship, okay, I'll make sure I time it around a time when it tends to be more in a good mood, because naturally what we want to do is, as much as possible, when conflicts arise, we don't want to speak straight off the top of the first emotion that comes up. We want to learn how to respond and not just react. And once you're able to navigate the natural conflicts that arise in a relationship in a more peaceable manner, then eventually you can move on to stuff like, okay, well, how can we create more moments of peace in our relationship? And then you'll notice that things start to go smoother, you feel closer, and then when you're feeling more closer, you have more energy, you're feeling more vibrant. And the beauty of this work is that when you feel good, you naturally do good. So instead of forcing yourself to have more energy for other areas of your life, now you can go in full guns blazing, and it's like, yep, I'm ready for this, here I am. And so I really want to invite women to look at their period and just their whole monthly cycle as a way to get to know themselves rather than as a dreaded period, and for men to see it not as something that's just like, oh, they're just speaking off the top of their head, or like that what they're saying during certain times of the month aren't valid, whereas actually, when we're closer to our period, we're actually more prone to speaking the truth. It might just not present itself in the best way, and this might look like grumpiness because they're not actually expressing their truth, and then it might just blow their fuse. So we want everyone to just be like very aware of what's going on for the body throughout the seasons. And so I invite anyone here that's listening to, try and track this for 3 months. If you don't actually know yourself, for 3 months, every single day, track your mood. How do you feel? How much energy do you have around certain times? Do you need more sleep? Do you need more food? Because once you know yourself, you can communicate your needs better to your partner. And once you know how to resolve conflicts that you have within yourself, you can also better resolve conflicts that you have with your partner. So if anybody actually has any more questions, I'd just like to mention very briefly that I do have a website where I offer a live masterclass where we can go in depth on the beauty of each and every single season. So we have the winter, like I said, which is the menstruation, the bleed, the spring, which is straight after. Then you have the summer, which is the ovulation period, and then you have the fall or the autumn, as I'm from the UK. So that's what we say over there. And that is the luteal phase. And then it's continuous cycle. And it's sink and soar self-love, because as I said, you can only be as intimate in your relationship as you are intimate with yourself. So we do focus more on self-love in that masterclass, but every single thing that you learn and you apply, it will definitely result in a thriving couple for you in your partnership. And so my website is Miiellee -tribe www.miielleepage.io, and I will put the link for Thomas to share it if anybody's interested in learning more. You can also sign up to a free trial of my newsletter.
Yeah. And if you'll put that inside of our private chat, then